Hey guys, tonight we're slipping quietly through the mists of memory into a place that may or may not have existed, but if it did, it was outrageous. The air is thick with jasmine, terraces float in the sky, there's a lion sleeping on a marble step, and you're not even sure if it's real. You're in Babylon under the moon, and just so you know, you probably won't survive this. Because it's so relaxing, you'll be asleep before you can say, Mesopotamia. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me where you're watching from, and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing barefoot on warm sandstone just outside the gates of ancient Babylon. It's night, but the city hasn't gone to sleep. Babylon never truly sleeps. The ziggurats glow faintly, outlined in firelight. You can hear someone somewhere playing a reed flute out of tune, but charmingly so. A donkey sighs, a cat glares. And above all this, something impossible rises toward the stars. It looks like a mountain made of dreams. Terraces stacked high, each one layered with greenery. Palms, vines, fruit trees, flowers you can't name. They glow silver under the moon. They drip softly with dew. This is the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and you're going in. You step forward, drawn by the scent of honeysuckle and something else. Wet clay, maybe, or crushed herbs. The sandstone under your feet radiates leftover heat from the day, and your shadow is long behind you, as if it too is a little unsure about entering a lost wonder of the world. You pass through a low arch covered in creeping ivy. A tiny lizard watches you go by. He looks vaguely judgmental. The garden's outer ring is quiet, dotted with shallow reflecting pools. Frogs blink at you. One jumps in with a delicate plop. There are carvings in the stone paths, some names, some strange spirals, one drawing that looks suspiciously like a man wrestling a goat. You shrug, ancient problems. As you follow a winding path upward, everything grows thicker, greener, and somehow softer. The air is heavy with the smell of damp earth and crushed mint. You spot an olive tree leaning at an angle, draped in glowing moss. Behind it, the stone wall curves around and disappears into another terrace. The moonlight bathes the leaves in a pale shimmer. It's a bit like walking through an underwater forest, minus the drowning. Unless you count drowning in relaxation. That's happening right now. Each terrace is connected by sloped ramps, probably for easier transport of water, but also, conveniently, to keep your journey gentle. No staircases to climb, you glide, like a Babylonian ghost tourist. There are torches in clay sconces, some still flickering from earlier in the evening. The flame shadows dance over faded murals, men guiding animals, women planting seeds, a couple of suspiciously buff gods sharing a melon. You chuckle to yourself. Even gods need snacks. A soft breeze stirs the hanging leaves. You pause under a trellis dripping with purple wisteria. The petals brush your cheeks like a sleepy cat. Something buzzes lazily nearby, either a sleepy bee or an overworked spirit of irrigation. Hard to say. In the distance, you can hear the gentle churn of water. A waterfall, maybe, or one of the famed screw lifts the Babylonians might have invented, long before Archimedes got the memo. Historians still argue whether those water-lifting spirals were truly in Babylon or just poetic exaggeration. But right now you hear it, so it's real enough. You lean on a low stone railing and look out. From here, the city sprawls beneath you like a woven mat. Brick rooftops, narrow alleys, the gleam of river curves. Somewhere out there, someone is snoring with a level of confidence you aspire to. Another person is definitely arguing with a goat. The goat is winning. A night bird calls, low and throaty. You tilt your head and catch a glimpse of the ziggurat's tip, catching the starlight. Everything feels old but tender, like time itself got tired and decided to nap here. A vine brushes your arm. It has tiny white blossoms that smell faintly of soap and lemons. You resist the urge to eat one. Probably not poisonous. But still, don't eat ancient vines. Not even in your dreams. You round a bend, and suddenly the noise of the city vanishes. It's like someone pressed mute. All you hear now is wind in the palms and the distant lapping of the river. You've reached what might be the central heart of the gardens. Before you stands a wide platform layered in shadow and silver light. Large urns line the edge, overflowing with papyrus reeds and golden lily pads. A gentle mist curls upward from a sunken pool in the center, lit from below by something that glows, maybe fireflies, maybe ancient LED magic. Who knows? You sit on the platform's edge, legs dangling into the cool mist. The stone is warm against your hands. You close your eyes and breathe. Slowly. Inhale the ancient air. Exhale your to-do list. You won't be needing it here. Behind you, a fig tree sighs as if it's been waiting all day for company. A few small fruits plop softly onto the moss. One lands next to your foot. You pick it up. It's warm and oddly perfect, like it knew you were coming. Somewhere far off, another flute begins. This one is in tune. Barely. The gardens have wrapped you in their sleepy spell. You're no longer sure what time it is, or what year, or if you even care. You stretch your legs. You yawn. The vines above shift just enough to let a beam of moonlight kiss your forehead like a lullaby. You've only just begun, and already you could sleep right here. But the river calls, and deeper wonders wait above. You rise slowly, like fog lifting from the riverbanks. The fig you picked earlier is still in your hand, warm and weighty, but you set it gently on the moss. It feels like something sacred. Best not to snack on a fruit that might be 2,600 years old, even in dream time. You continue up the next ramp. The stones are slick in places from condensation, and the air thickens slightly with every step, like the garden is drawing you in, not just physically, but mentally too. Thoughts fall away like leaves. You don't even notice at first. That thing you were worried about this morning? Gone. That conversation you keep replaying? Evaporated. The only thing left is right now, you. The scent of myrrh, and possibly a sleepy owl watching you from behind a fern. This next terrace is different, wider, wilder. The greenery here is less ornamental and more alive. Tangled vines, towering date palms, sprawling beds of blue-green succulents that seem to glow softly in the moonlight. Somewhere water trickles from a hidden spring, the sound curling through the air like a lullaby whispered through time. You pause beside a shallow basin cut directly into the stone floor. Inside, clear water ripples lazily, reflecting a canopy of stars. A frog stares up at you like it's seen things. Ancient things. You nod at it respectfully and move on. A few clay plaques line the wall here, worn smooth by centuries. One of them shows a king, possibly Nebuchadnezzar II, gesturing toward a garden while a woman beside him looks unimpressed. Historians still argue whether these hanging gardens were built by him for his wife, Amadis, who missed the green hills of her homeland, or whether it was all exaggerated by ancient Greek tourists desperate for content. You can relate. Even in Babylon, the first thing someone did was start a blog on clay tablets. But whether this was a love letter in stone or a misremembered dream, the result is the same. You're here, in a place where palm trees grow from rooftops and moonflowers bloom at midnight. And everything smells like thyme and warm stone, whatever secret perfumes the ancients used to mask the fact that indoor plumbing wasn't invented yet. A soft chime rings from somewhere above. Not a bell, exactly. Maybe a piece of bronze catching the wind. Or an echo from a ritual that never quite stopped. You pass under a stone archway shaped like a lion's mouth. Its fangs are dulled by time, and one eye is chipped, giving it a rather bashful expression. You pat it gently on the nose as you walk through. "Good kitty," you murmur. It doesn't disagree. This terrace is quieter still. The plants are smaller here, bonsai-like but not styled, just naturally compact, as if they'd learned humility from the stars. You spot tiny citrus trees, their oranges glowing like fireflies. Next to them, a low herb bed brims with lavender, sage, and a plant that smells suspiciously like the inside of a very clean temple. There's a stone bench partially hidden by ivy. You brush off a few fallen petals and sit down. The stone is cool beneath you, grounding. You rest your elbows on your knees, look out at the night sky, and wonder, for just a moment, how the Babylonians explained the stars. Probably with more drama than accuracy. That cluster there? Clearly a tiger chasing a fish. That bright one? Definitely the eye of a jealous god. The Milky Way? Maybe spilled date wine. You exhale slowly. There's no rush. You have time here. You have all of it. Somewhere to your right, a pomegranate tree leans over the path. Its fruit is fat and bursting, one split open to reveal a constellation of ruby seeds. You touch the bark lightly. It's cool and rough. Another tree nearby bears long, thin pods that sway with the weight of night air. A clay tablet at its base labels it in cuneiform, just little wedge shapes pressed into ancient mud. You pretend to read it aloud in a fake scholar voice. This plant was probably invented by aliens. You grin. The tree rustles, unimpressed. The next ramp up is narrower, bordered by tall reeds. You run your fingers along their stalks as you pass. They sing a soft, dry song, like brushing through time. The scent here shifts again, darker, deeper. Wet stone and jasmine and the faintest whiff of honey. And then, just before you reach the next landing, you see it. A massive wheel half buried in moss, angled upward, still slick with damp. It could be a remnant of one of those infamous water-lifting devices, maybe an Archimedean screw, or something far older and more mysterious. Historians still argue whether such machines existed here, or whether later scholars just shoved Greek tech into earlier legends like historical Mad Libs. But the wheel is real, covered in algae, dotted with fungus, and still somehow beautiful, like time abandoned it mid-sentence. You pause, press your palm to it. It's cold, solid. It vibrates faintly like it remembers moving. Then the wind shifts, carrying a new sound, the low hum of distant chanting. Not threatening, more like a lullaby stretched over centuries. You close your eyes and listen. The syllables blur together, foreign yet familiar. Maybe it's the gardeners of the past, still singing to their plants, or the plants singing back. You climb the final few steps to this terrace and find yourself standing before what must have been a ceremonial pool. It's rectangular, lined with obsidian bricks and filled with water dark as ink. Lotus flowers float on the surface, barely stirring. You walk the edge, watching your reflection drift beside you. It looks relaxed, peaceful, slightly dazed, like you've just been gently hypnotized by 2,000 years of night air. And maybe you have. Because now your limbs are heavy in that delicious way they get right before sleep. Your breath is slow, your pulse is soft. You find another bench, this one smooth, round, nestled beneath a canopy of fig leaves, and you sink into it like it's made of memory foam and kindness. The fig leaves rustle gently above. A single one flutters down and lands on your shoulder, staying there like it's tucking you in. You close your eyes again just for a second, maybe longer. The world doesn't need you right now. Babylon will hold. You don't remember standing up, but somehow you're moving again, slowly, softly, as if you've been borrowed by the garden itself. You trail your fingers along a vine-draped wall, and the leaves are cool like jade, pulsing faintly with life. Somewhere above, a tiny bat flits through the air, making no sound at all. It doesn't bother you. Nothing here does. As you ascend to the next level, your feet land on alternating stone and wood panels, each one slightly uneven, like the garden was grown rather than built. And maybe that's closer to the truth than the textbooks admit. Historians still argue whether the hanging gardens were suspended by aqueduct-fed terraces, or just elaborate poetry that took on too much hype. You kind of hope it's the poetry thing. It'd be just like humanity to will something this beautiful into being through sheer collective longing. The next tier opens into a quiet colonnade. Slim pillars, encrusted with time, support a roof draped in flowering vines. The air here smells different again, less green, more warm spice and ancient wood. You walk slowly under the arches, watching the flicker of fireflies that seem to have unionized and choreographed a nightly light show. Off to your right, you spot what looks like an old altar. Not dramatic, just a waist-high slab of basalt surrounded by bowls. Most are empty, but one contains dried petals, and another holds smooth stones worn nearly circular by years of being turned in someone's hands. A few have symbols etched into them, possibly prayers, possibly grocery lists, possibly Babylonian emojis. Hard to say. You lean in to examine them, and a breeze pushes your hair forward, as if the garden wants you to focus. Your fingers brush over the symbols, and for a second you swear you feel warmth. Not metaphorical warmth, but real. Sun-on-skin warmth, as if the memory of the person who left them behind still lingers in the stone. The wind hushes. Even the frogs seem to take a breath. A shadow moves near your feet, a long lazy arc cast by something slithering away through the reeds. Probably just a snake. Possibly a minor deity. Either way, you nod politely and let it pass. You turn toward the main pathway again, following the curve of the colonnade. A series of low fountains bubble along the center, each one shaped like an animal. You spot lions, bulls, a goat with 4 horns, someone got creative, and even a creature that looks suspiciously like a platypus. Maybe time travelers came here too, You wouldn't be surprised. The water from the fountains pours into a small channel that winds down the path like a silver thread. You follow it, letting the sound guide you forward. The babble of water is hypnotic, rhythmic, soothing, like a lullaby hummed under the breath of the earth. Halfway down the path, a doorway appears. Not a grand one, just a wooden door tucked into the wall, arched and worn, its handle polished by 1,000 silent hands. You don't try to open it. You just rest your palm against it. It's warm. Not just from the heat of the day, but warm like it's holding stories. Like if you opened it, you'd be swallowed by 10 lifetimes all at once. Instead, you press your forehead gently to the wood, close your eyes, and exhale. The door seems to sigh back. You continue on. The next clearing is circular, bordered by tall cypress trees that form a perfect natural dome overhead. The air here is cooler, and the stars peek through the leaves like shy guests at a very old, very slow party. In the center, a small stone table holds a bundle of dried herbs bound in silk. You don't know the ritual, but your body seems to, without thinking, you reach down, pick up the bundle, and breathe in deeply. The scent is impossible to name. It smells like night and history and cinnamon and rain on a stone threshold. You exhale, and something inside you untangles. A gentle laugh catches you off guard. It's your own. You laugh because it feels absurdly good to stand here, barefoot in a forgotten wonder of the world, snuggling a bundle of ancient herbs like it's a baby rabbit. You're not even embarrassed. This place has seen stranger things. There's a tree at the edge of the clearing, a massive one, bent in an elegant arc like it's bowing. You sit beneath it, your back to the curve of its trunk, and look up at the leaves whispering in the wind. You think about Midas again. The queen this garden might have been built for. Historians can't agree whether she was homesick or just had really specific taste in landscaping. But if she walked this same path, if she touched this same bark, if she stood under this same sky, then maybe, just maybe, you're not so far apart. You breathe in the idea of her, of all the people who ever wandered here searching for sleep or solace or something even they couldn't name. Somewhere nearby, a fruit drops from a tree with a soft thud. Nothing in this garden falls hard. Not even gravity seems to hurry. You lie down now, right there beneath the bowing tree, on a cushion of soft grass and crumbling petals. The sky spins slowly overhead, not in a dizzying way, more like the world tucking itself in. Above you, a constellation flickers into shape. It looks like a camel, or maybe a teapot, or maybe both. You decide not to decide. Your breathing syncs with the rustle of leaves, slow, gentle, unhurried. And in the distance, beyond the edge of the cypress circle, you hear what might be music. A single note carried on the breeze, like the memory of a lyre strummed centuries ago, and only now reaching your ears. It lingers. It soothes. It says, "Stay a while longer." You do. You're not sure how long you've stayed under that tree. Minutes, hours, maybe lifetimes. But when you rise again, the garden greets you like you never left. The stars have shuffled slightly in the sky, and a low mist has settled at your feet, curling like sleepy cats around the stones. You keep walking, letting the pathway decide your direction. It curves inward now, pulling you deeper, toward a section of the garden that feels older, less polished, more myth than memory. The plants here are wilder, untrimmed, as if the gardeners gave up trying to tame them centuries ago. Vines braid themselves around pillars like snakes in a lazy embrace. Moss carpets the walls in soft greens and silvers, each patch a map to a place no longer on Earth. You pause to touch a mossy stone, and it feels familiar, like it remembers you. Maybe it does. Historians still argue whether this garden was even in Babylon at all, or if it lived somewhere else entirely. Nineveh, perhaps, hidden behind scribal errors and dusty egos. You think about that as your hand rests on the stone, and the stone rests back. Off to the side, a low arch leads into a darker alcove. No lanterns here, but something glows faintly. Bioluminescent fungus? Old magic? A Babylonian nightlight? You don't question it. You duck beneath the arch and enter. Inside, it's hushed, the kind of silence that has weight. The air is dense with the scent of damp earth, cedar, and something faintly sweet. Dates, maybe. A tiny canal runs along the edge of the room, barely wide enough to dip your toes into, which of course you do. The water is cool and slow-moving, tickling your ankles with a laziness that invites mimicry. You sit on a stone bench carved with crescent shapes and spirals. Above you, a single shaft of moonlight slips through a hole in the ceiling, spotlighting a fig tree that's somehow growing right in the center of the room. Its trunk twists upward like it's dancing, and its branches reach out like they're offering something. You lean back and watch the play of moonlight on the leaves. A breeze drifts in, and you hear distant laughter. Soft, musical, ancient. For a moment, you imagine priests here, or lovers, or bored teenagers hiding from royal duty. You picture someone scrawling love notes into the mortar between stones, hoping a future wanderer like you might find them. You trace one of the spirals on the bench. It's worn smooth, clearly touched often. Maybe it's not a bench at all. Maybe it was a seat of judgment, or a storytelling circle, or just a particularly cozy nap zone. You feel no need to define it. The garden doesn't demand definitions. You lie back and close your eyes. The moonlight slips across your eyelids like a whisper. In this moment, you're both completely here and not here at all. Then, the sound of dripping water. You open your eyes and see it, just past the fig tree, a narrow tunnel carved from stone, lit by glimmers bouncing off a moving surface. The sound grows louder. Drip, drip, splash. A slow rhythm, almost a heartbeat. You follow it. The tunnel is tall enough to walk through, though just barely. The walls are etched with unfamiliar symbols. Not letters, exactly. More like pictographs. One looks like a fish wearing a crown. Another looks suspiciously like a loaf of bread doing jazz hands. These might be sacred texts. Or maybe ancient graffiti. Historians still debate how much of Mesopotamian writing was actually bookkeeping and how much was just people doodling while bored. You emerge into a small underground chamber, and there it is, the secret aqueduct. You recognize it instantly, not from books or documentaries, but from that deep human part of you that just knows when you're seeing something sacred. The walls of the chamber are slick with condensation. Water pours from a carved lion's mouth into a wide basin. From there, it splits into channels, delicate, perfect, engineered to flow upward through a system of pulleys and screws. Yes, Archimedes' screw, except this one predates him by centuries. A crude prototype, maybe, or a divine accident. Either way, it's working. Slowly, gently, water rises along a tilted tube, pulled upward by the turning of heavy stones powered by, get this, a giant wooden hamster wheel. You blink. And then you notice a small, very fluffy goat snoozing inside it. So, maybe not in operation tonight. You try not to laugh, but a giggle escapes anyway. The room smells of iron and damp and something floral. You don't see the flowers, but their scent clings to the walls. Maybe they grew here once, dried into the stone. Or maybe it's just the memory of blooms that never left. You move toward the basin and dip your hands in the water. It's cold, soothing. It slides over your skin like silk soaked in stars. You bring a handful to your lips. Taste it. Earthy and faintly sweet, like the ghost of pomegranates. You sit beside the wheel, listening to the plink-plink of droplets falling from the ceiling into the basin. It's mesmerizing. Like the garden is speaking in Morse code, a secret language only understood in half sleep. You wonder who built this. Was it a king, desperate to impress? A queen, lonely for her homeland? Or 100 nameless workers pulling stone after stone into place because they believed in something taller than themselves? Maybe it was all of them. Maybe none. Historians still argue whether the gardens ever really existed, or whether they were just embroidered legends retold until they calcified into fact. But here in this hidden room, as water climbs and dreams linger, you know the truth. They existed because you're in them. You lie down beside the basin. The floor is cool, and the sound of water echoes in the chamber like a lullaby sung by the earth itself. The goat in the wheel makes a small bleat in its sleep. You smile, eyes closed. You're safe. You're cradled by stone and story, by water that climbs toward the sky, and by the soft, undemanding night. The longer you lie there, the more the chamber begins to feel like a womb. Not in a weird way, just in that cocooned, ancient safety kind of way. Everything outside it, cities, clocks, emails, fades into a fuzzy dream. The only rhythm that matters is the drip of water and the gentle huff of the sleeping goat. Eventually, curiosity taps your shoulder again, as it tends to do. You stretch, your limbs heavy and syrupy, and rise. With one last glance at the aqueduct and its drowsy, unpaid operator, you step back into the tunnel. The pictographs wink at you on the way out, like they're in on some joke they'll never tell. Back outside, the garden has shifted again, subtly, like a lazy cat rearranging itself on the bed. The vines look longer, the stars closer. You could swear the fig tree gave you a nod. This time you follow the sound of wind chimes. They tinkle faintly through the warm air. Not quite music, not quite nonsense. Just enough to feel like something's inviting you. You follow the sound around a bend, past a wall covered in broken tiles. The fragments form a half-forgotten mosaic, bits of turquoise, gold, deep ochre. You pause to examine a shard shaped like a foot. Just a foot. Maybe part of a god, or a giant, or someone who really loved sandals. It's a reminder. Gardens grow, but they also crumble. You come to a raised platform that seems to float above the rest of the garden. The stone is lighter here, almost white, with flecks of green glass baked right into it. You step onto the platform and are greeted by the soft clatter of chimes strung above on copper wires. They tinkle in the breeze, singing in some ancient Babylonian key long forgotten by modern ears. You sit down cross-legged and look around. The view from up here is absurdly beautiful. Lush terraces spill downward in every direction, layered like a green wedding cake. Date palms sway gently beside acacia trees. Vines hang like jewelry from the edges. Pools shimmer between stone columns, reflecting moonlight like lazy disco balls. And beyond it all, the distant outline of Babylon. Faint torchlight glows along its outer walls. The Ishtar Gate twinkles faintly, the famous blue-glazed lions dancing like ghosts on its surface. You let your eyes rest there for a moment. Historians still argue whether the gardens were even physically possible in that dry Mesopotamian climate. Some say the engineering was a miracle of irrigation. Others suggest it was all a metaphor for paradise, told by Greek travelers who never even saw Mesopotamia. Just heard someone's drunk uncle describe it over too many pints of pomegranate wine. But from this platform, none of that matters. You're not a historian tonight. You're a dreamer in a place that feels like it grew from the soul outward. You lie back and close your eyes again, this time not out of exhaustion, but because everything here is made to be felt more than seen. The stone beneath you radiates a mild warmth, like it remembers the sun, even in the cool night. Somewhere nearby, water trickles down a stairway of polished marble, singing the same 3 notes over and over again. You count them. 1, 2, 3. Again and again. It becomes a mantra. You breathe in time with it. 1, 2, 3. Inhale, exhale. Thought, no thought. And then a breeze. Not strong, just enough to carry the scent of myrrh and something almost like cinnamon. It brushes your skin like a velvet ribbon. It shifts the wind chimes above your head into a brief moment of perfect harmony, a chord so soft and sad it almost breaks your heart in the best way possible. You whisper thank you, not sure to whom. Maybe to whoever built this. Maybe to the goat. You sit up and notice something odd. A small path curves away from the platform, hidden by a curtain of drooping vines. You push through, and the air changes again, thicker, warmer, like someone just turned up the humidity dial to sweaty rainforest. You've entered the orchid house. At least, that's what you call it. It's not really a building, just an enclosed grove beneath an overhang of flowering branches. Orchids bloom in impossible colors, inky black, electric purple, pale gold like tears. Some hang in clusters, others grow straight out of the bark of crooked trees. You swear one of them looks like it's smiling. A few glow faintly in the dark. You reach out to touch one, and it responds. It curls slightly under your fingertip, like a shy cat. You chuckle and tell it you're just passing through. In the center of the orchid house is a small fountain shaped like a flower. Water spills from its petals in slow motion. You kneel beside it and cup your hands under the flow, but this water is warmer, almost like tea. You sniff it, floral, gentle, intoxicating. You resist the urge to drink, probably not FDA approved. Also, you don't want to wake up next to a talking fig tree again. Instead, you sit beside the fountain and just be. Time drips with the water. Slow, unfussy, uninterested in your plans. A moth lands on your knee. It has silver wings. You tell it your secrets, and it listens. You think about how many hands shaped this garden. Engineers, builders, dreamers, kings. Maybe queens. Maybe slaves. Maybe wandering mystics who slipped through a portal and just stayed. You think of how water, stone, and sunlight became something this soft, this healing. And you think about how sometimes when the world outside gnashes its teeth and screams in pixels, All it takes is one quiet garden to remind you what silence feels like. The moth flutters away. You rise again, back through the orchids. Past the vines, onto the platform. You decide to descend the tiers of the garden now, follow the path down, see what dreams drip through its roots. You take the first step, then the second. The stone is worn smooth by centuries of dreamers who walk this same way, some probably barefoot like you, some probably sleepwalking. You are both. You descend the garden's terraces like a whisper through time, soft, careful, each step pressing gently into the memories of those who came before. The stone stairs spiral downward, chiseled so long ago their edges have softened, like ancient laughter worn into a favorite path. The moon overhead follows you loyally, threading silver into every leaf and puddle as you move. Below, the air thickens, scented now with loam and moss and something else. Something dark and spicy, like incense smoldering at the edge of a forgotten temple. You follow the trail until it curves into a grotto-like alcove, partially hidden beneath a veil of hanging papyrus. You duck beneath it and emerge into what can only be described as the garden's memory. It's quieter here. The sound of trickling water is muffled, as though underwater. Ferns rise waist-high, soft and overgrown, the kind of plants that look like they could tell you fairy tales if you gave them enough moonlight in compliments. You run your fingers across their fronds and they bounce back, ever polite. In the center of the alcove sits a cracked stone pedestal. Atop it, a small figurine, worn smooth. A woman, maybe. Or a goddess. Maybe a priestess, or a royal librarian who just got tired of scrolls and built a garden instead. Historians still argue whether these kinds of artifacts were ceremonial or just decorative, whether they were worshipped or merely admired. You lean in closer. The figurine's face is almost gone, but the curve of her spine still whispers purpose. She's seated, hands folded, as if waiting for a question. So you ask her one. Why here? Why now? And somewhere in the hush of the garden's breath, the answer finds you. Not in words, but in stillness. You sit beside her, just long enough to forget what sitting means. Eventually, the breeze returns, carrying new sounds this time. Laughter. And the rhythmic thump of something wooden, like a pestle in a mortar. You rise, brushing off leaves, and follow the noise like a breadcrumb trail. You come upon a small pavilion made of palm trunks and reeds. Inside, a group of figures in flowing robes moves gracefully, passing bowls, stirring mixtures, dipping brushes. You pause at the edge, watching like a ghost, unnoticed. One of them paints a symbol on a flat stone, concentric spirals radiating out from a dot. Another grinds something orange into powder and sprinkles it over damp leaves. They move with a kind of sleepy ceremony, like this is both ancient ritual and Tuesday hobby. One of them glances toward you. You freeze. But they smile, soft and knowing, and gesture for you to come closer. You step forward, and someone hands you a cup made from dried gourd. Inside is a pale drink that smells faintly of dates and almonds. You sip it slowly. It tastes like a nap you forgot to take last week. They don't speak to you in words, just glances and small nods, but somehow you understand. They are the garden keepers, the ones who tend to the sleepier corners of this place. Their job is not to preserve history, but to gently confuse it, blur it like fog until myth and memory start holding hands. You ask one of them, silently, how old this garden really is. They raise an eyebrow. Older than Babylon, their eyes say, younger than the moon. You accept that. As you sit among them, the ambient sounds return, water dripping, insects humming, chimes echoing like distant lullabies. You join in the painting, tracing a spiral of your own on a smooth black stone. It feels strangely important. You don't know why, and you don't need to. One of the keepers passes you a bundle of herbs tied with red thread. You take it, instinctively raising it to your nose. Lavender, sage, and something spicy you can't name. It smells like your grandmother's garden, if your grandmother had been a Babylonian high priestess. They motion for you to carry it with you. You nod, and with another unspoken thank you, you move on, tucking the bundle into your shirt like a relic. As you leave the pavilion, the landscape changes again. Not drastically, just enough to keep you slightly off balance, like the garden is tilting the board so you can never memorize the route. The path curves along a stream now, one shallow enough to walk through barefoot, which of course you do. The water hugs your ankles like affectionate ghosts. It's warm in places, cooler in others, depending on where it pools under moon-kissed rocks or rushes across smooth stone. You find yourself humming, maybe something ancient, maybe just a commercial jingle that's been broken into dream notes. The stream leads you to a space wide open to the sky. No vines here, no hanging plants. Just a circular clearing surrounded by pillars that never got their roofs. Just ribs of stone pointing at the stars. The floor is smooth and dark, covered in mosaic tiles that shimmer under the moonlight. This is where the stars come to bathe. You lie down in the center. The sky above is unreal, thicker with stars than any urban ceiling would ever allow. You recognize Orion, or what you think is Orion, except it's a little off. Like this version of the garden lives under a sky with just slightly different physics. Maybe this is Babylon's dream, not Earth's. You blink slowly. A fringe theory you once heard on a podcast floats to the top of your brain like cream in warm milk. Some say the Hanging Gardens weren't built in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, by a completely different king who just wanted the credit. Or maybe the whole thing was an elaborate PR stunt to impress foreign dignitaries. Historians still argue whether any of it was real. But your body knows better. It feels real in your bones. The wind tickles your toes. The mosaic tiles beneath you hum like distant lullabies. The pillars open to the stars cast shadows shaped like question marks. You breathe in deep, and the sky breathes back. You lie there for a while. Maybe minutes. Maybe centuries. Time isn't a line here. It's a pool, and you're just floating on its surface like a lotus leaf, drifting between moments. When you finally sit up, your body feels different. Not lighter, necessarily, but more aired out. Like someone opened a window in your soul. The pillars around you still stand, their shadows stretching long and slow. You trace one with your finger, and it shimmers faintly. There's no explanation, and that's comforting. You continue along a path that wasn't there before. It winds gently upward, curving along the outer edge of the garden's structure. The higher you climb, the more the breeze picks up, cool and dry now, with a touch of the desert's midnight breath. As you ascend, little alcoves appear in the stone, each filled with strange offerings. Dried pomegranates, small ivory combs, carved dice with faded dots. One alcove has a tiny reed boat, barely longer than your hand. You pause to admire its symmetry, then keep walking. The garden seems to collect memories the way some people collect postcards, bits of forgotten life, left behind like breadcrumbs for dreamers. At the top of the path, you find a dome. It's small, almost intimate. Made of mud brick and glazed tile, it gleams faintly even in the dark, like it remembers the sun. You duck inside. It's warm. Inside, braziers smolder with embers, not fire, just warmth, the kind that coaxes stories from bones. The walls are covered in murals. You lean closer. They tell a story. A queen gazes across a river. A king stands beside a vast scaffold of plants. Builders haul buckets up a spiral ramp. Children dangle their legs from the garden's ledges, feet brushing vines. Lovers kiss beneath a fig tree, their outlines faded into the paint. You move along the wall slowly, eyes tracing the narrative. And then, surprise, a camel. Right in the middle of one mural, a smug-looking camel in full regalia is being petted by what appears to be a royal gardener. The animal wears an actual grin. It looks absurdly modern. Fringe historians once suggested that camels were the true heroes of Babylonian engineering, capable of hauling more than any mule, and with enough attitude to survive endless shifts in the sun. You squint. This particular camel seems to know you're watching it. You move on. In the center of the dome, beneath an opening in the ceiling, sits a low bench of stone. You sit. The moonlight filters through the opening, casting a pale circle at your feet. You notice something scratched into the bench's surface. A name? A date? You reach out to trace it, only to realize it's written in a language you don't know. Or maybe one you used to know, in dreams. You close your eyes, and something stirs. Not a sound, not quite. A sensation. The hum of water rising through the garden's veins, pulsing upward from hidden aqueducts. The murmur of ancient voices speaking through plant roots and shadows. The way your own breath begins to match the rhythm of something older than breath. This was never just a garden. This was a spell. You stand and step back outside, blinking at the sudden openness. The sky is shifting now, deepening from indigo to velvet. The stars feel closer, crowding around like sleepy fireflies at a campfire story's end. You descend again, this time into a part of the garden that feels oddly geometric. Stone paths laid out in precise squares, with low walls and shallow pools reflecting the moon. You walk between them like a bishop on a chessboard. You pass what appears to be a sunken library, rows of clay tablets laid out under glass, or possibly enchanted sand. Some are cracked, others perfectly preserved. You kneel to study one. The symbols feel familiar, cuneiform, you guess, but the arrangement is poetic, almost musical. Lines flow like stanzas. A fringe theory whispers that the Hanging Gardens doubled as a school of philosophy, an open-air university where plants taught lessons and water recited the syllabus. Historians still argue whether this theory holds any weight, or if someone just read too much into one traveler's drunk scribbles. Still, as you gaze at the tablets, a strange comfort settles into your shoulders. Like you've just remembered something important that hasn't happened yet. You continue passing a tree you swear wasn't there before. Its bark is smooth, pale, almost luminous. Its leaves rustle in a pattern too regular to be wind. You pause beneath it. Something about this tree insists on stillness, so you offer it silence, and in return it gives you the feeling that everything, absolutely everything, has already worked out. You're not sure how long you linger there. Eventually, the path winds downward again, this time through a corridor of stone and ivy. You pass a few crumbling walls, etched with graffiti that looks suspiciously modern. Someone's carved a heart with initials, right beside a faint Babylonian symbol for blessing. You grin. Maybe time leaks here. Or maybe tourists are just persistent. The path leads you to a circular plaza. At the center, a sundial glows faintly, though no sun guides it now. Around the plaza are 12 doorways, one for each month, or zodiac sign, or maybe just 12 moods the garden feels like having. Each doorway pulses slightly, inviting. You pick one at random. It opens not with a creak, but with a sigh. Inside, you find yourself on a narrow walkway above a reservoir, black water stretching far into darkness. Fireflies drift over the surface, glowing gold and green. The air is thick with petrichor, as if the whole room had recently wept. You hear a soft splash, then another. You pause, heart thudding but not in fear, in awe. From the shadows, something surfaces, a fish the size of a bathtub gliding silently. Its scales shimmer like coins, another follows, then another. You lean on the railing, watching them dance in slow, sleepy circles. One of the fish stops beneath you, and for just a second, its eye meets yours. You wonder if it remembers Nebuchadnezzar. Or if it was Nebuchadnezzar. Honestly, at this point, either seems plausible. You watch the fish drift back into shadow and retrace your steps out of the reservoir chamber. The plaza awaits you again, each doorway still gently glowing. You don't need to explore them all. The garden gives what it chooses, and you've been chosen tonight. You stretch your arms overhead. Your body feels heavy in the best way, like it's being slowly claimed by the kind of sleep that doesn't ask questions. You walk back toward the central path, pausing once more to glance up at the sky. The stars wink, as if they know you're almost done here. You smile back. You follow the gentle curve of the path, each step sinking slightly into moss-soft stone, like the garden is cushioning your descent. Everything around you seems to be leaning toward slumber. Vines droop lazily over ledges, and even the torches now glow with a syrupy dimness, as if too drowsy to flicker. You round a corner and find yourself in a chamber of scent. It's not a visual space. It's olfactory, layered with the slow swirl of sandalwood, myrrh, honeyed dates, and that strange, familiar wet green smell of crushed fig leaves. You breathe in and instantly feel yourself sinking deeper, like your bones just decided to dissolve and drift. The space is circular, lined with carved stone basins. Each one contains something different. Crushed lavender and warm oil, ground turmeric, floating rose petals, even a few that contain powders that shimmer faintly in the light. You trail your fingers through one bowl and watch a swirl of silver rise and then settle back into itself like it never moved at all. There's a rumor, whispered in archaeological circles, scoffed at in academic journals, that this was the world's first aromatherapy spa. A side project by the queen who commissioned the gardens, meant to balance not just her homesickness for the mountains, but her migraines too. Historians still argue whether the royal baths actually doubled as botanical medicine chambers, or if that's just modern marketing retrofitted to a 1,000-year-old daydream. But standing here now, surrounded by scents that bypass logic and tap straight into memory, you get it. You really get it. You pick up a small, shallow bowl, terracotta, slightly chipped, holding crushed mint in water, and press it close. It smells like a memory you can't quite place. Summer after rain, maybe, or your grandmother's kitchen, or someone else's. You place the bowl back, gently, and from somewhere in the chamber's corner a soft breeze rises. It carries a faint chime, like hollow bone wind bells, and with it, the rustle of parchment. You turn toward the sound. There, tucked beside one of the basins, is a small pedestal. On it lies a single scroll, tied with dried grass. No one told you to touch it, but this garden doesn't run on permission slips. You untie the scroll and let it unfurl. It isn't written in any script you recognize, but somehow, as your eyes move across the symbols, the meaning flows in, like reading with your skin. The scroll is a lullaby, a long, coiling, rhythmic thing that sings of mountain winds and river songs, of stone paths warmed by noonlight, of figs splitting open from ripeness. It doesn't rhyme. It doesn't need to. It's the kind of song that doesn't end. It just circles back to its own beginning. You close the scroll and retie it, setting it gently back where it came from. And then you notice the wall behind it. It's tiled with tiny stones, each etched with a name. Some are clear and proud. Others are faded. You scan the wall, your eyes skipping across centuries. One stone catches your attention. No name, just a spiral, deeply carved, worn smooth at the edges like it's been touched thousands of times. You do the same. The stone is warm. You blink, and the chamber is gone. Or rather, it's changed. You're now in what looks like a greenhouse, though calling it that feels too modern, too sterile. This is a sanctuary of glass and dew and roots that coil like sleeping dragons. The ceiling above is translucent, and the moonlight trickles through in silver beams that feel liquid to the eye. Here the plants aren't just growing, they're watching. You feel it. A subtle awareness. Not hostile. Just curious. There's a tree with red bark and flowers like bells. Another with branches that move slowly, rhythmically, as though breathing. A few ferns tremble faintly as you pass, like they're laughing at a joke you haven't heard yet. In one corner, you spot a strange structure, a raised circle of polished obsidian surrounded by hanging vines. You approach, and as you get closer, you realize it's a kind of reflective pool, except the reflection isn't showing the ceiling above. It's showing a memory. Your memory. You as a child, dancing in a sprinkler. You falling asleep on a long car ride. You holding someone's hand for the first time. Then it shifts. To you now, standing right here. Then it shows you walking away, back into the dark. Then nothing. A still pond. You blink, and the image fades. You turn around slowly and find a gardener watching you. Not a ghost, not quite human either. More of a presence draped in linen and mist with hands made of bark and moss. It holds a curved blade, not threatening, more like a harvesting tool. It inclines its head at you, and though it doesn't speak, you understand. You've wandered far enough for tonight. You bow back and the figure dissolves into mist, retreating behind a curtain of ferns. The room seems to exhale. You find your way back to the path, legs moving like they remember where to go. As you walk, the garden dims further. Lights soften. The hum of flowing water lowers in pitch, like a record slowing down. Even the air begins to feel heavier in the best way, thick with sleep, with dusk, with dreams long overdue. You find yourself in another corridor, this one lined with mirrors, but none of them reflect you. Each shows a different person. A young girl with leaves in her hair, a scholar mumbling numbers in the dark, an old woman planting something with trembling hands. Maybe they're real. Maybe they were real. You keep moving. At the end of the corridor, a low arch leads you out into the open again. The garden sprawls before you now, not as maze, but as memory. You can see the dome where you sat, the sunken library, the scent chamber, the fish pond, all glowing faintly, like tiny nightlights in a child's room. And then you realize, this entire place was never meant to be found. It was meant to be remembered. A structure of feeling, not fact. Something built not for emperors, but for wanderers, for lovers, for insomniacs. You lie down on a stone bench that hums faintly beneath you. Overhead, the stars settle into place like they've been waiting. You close your eyes, and the garden breathes with you. The garden's breath slows, syncing with yours. A quiet rhythm that invites you deeper into rest. You can feel the coolness of the stone bench beneath you, the rough texture a gentle reminder of the ancient earth holding you up. Somewhere nearby, water trickles, steady, patient, like a heartbeat you didn't know you needed to hear. You begin to drift through the layers of the garden again, but this time it feels less like walking and more like floating. The soft moss underfoot seems to pulse with a gentle glow, lighting your path without effort or haste. You notice how every leaf and petal is coated with a sheen of moonlight, making the colors shimmer in a way that's impossible to capture by daylight. Your mind drifts to one of the lesser-known marvels of the Hanging Gardens, the ingenious irrigation system. Historians still argue whether this system was powered by a simple chain pump or some more elaborate Archimedean screw device brought from Greece. Either way, the engineers of Babylon were masters of coaxing water to climb upward, defying gravity, to nourish this lush oasis in the middle of a desert. You imagine the steady sound of water sloshing through channels carved into stone, a quiet music played only for the plants. Maybe this was the true lullaby of the gardens, an endless flow, a promise of life that never stops. You can almost hear the gentle hiss and splash, a sound so soothing that even the restless would find peace here. Your footsteps take you to a section filled with unusual flowers, some bright as flame, others pale as moonlight. One particularly curious bloom catches your eye. It's said the Babylonians believed these flowers contained a secret essence, a fragrance that could calm even the most troubled mind. They called it the sleep blossom, a plant that's never been identified by modern botanists but lives on in whispered legends. You brush your fingers through the petals, and a soft scent rises, subtle and sweet, weaving its way through your thoughts. The air grows heavier, the scent wrapping around you like a gentle shawl, tugging you closer to dreams. Nearby, a stone bench curves invitingly beneath a low-hanging fig tree. You settle there, letting your back rest against the cool surface. You notice the tree's leaves tremble softly in a breeze you can't feel. The rhythmic rustle is like the garden itself is breathing with you again. In the distance, faint voices murmur, voices from the past, or perhaps echoes of visitors long gone. Some say these were the sounds of poets who once wandered here, inspired by the garden's magic, weaving stories that blurred the lines between history and myth. Historians still debate whether the gardens truly existed as described, or if they were an elaborate allegory, a symbol of paradise lost. But here, under the fig tree, none of that matters. Only the present moment. The sound of your own breathing mingling with the ancient whispers. You close your eyes, letting the scent and sound lull you into a quiet peace. The garden's magic is slow, deliberate, never rushing, always gentle like a soft caress on your mind. And as sleep begins to pull you deeper, you feel the weight of centuries lifting, replaced by a calm as vast and timeless as the stars overhead. You're floating now, no longer tethered by the weight of the waking world, as the garden's tranquil spirit carries you further into that delicate borderland between wakefulness and dreams. The air here is soft, carrying hints of jasmine and cedar, the kind of scents that slip past your conscious mind and settle in your heart. As you drift through this timeless place, you notice details you might have missed before. The tiny insects that hum quietly in the dark, their wings brushing against the leaves like a gentle metronome, keeping time with your slowing breath. The stone paths beneath your feet are cool and smooth, worn down by centuries of footsteps, some hurried, some slow like yours now. Remember that peculiar belief about crocodile dung as sunscreen? Here in the gardens, people had their own unusual remedies too, like using crushed gemstones mixed into oils for skin and health. The sparkle might have been just for show, or maybe it was part of their wellness ritual. Historians still debate whether these practices had real medicinal effects, or were mostly symbolic. You pass beneath a canopy of vines heavy with small fragrant fruits, some of which are thought to have been brought from far-flung lands, trading routes stretching like veins through the ancient world. The Silk Road, the spice route. All converging here, in this green jewel of a city that many believe to be the world's greatest wonder. As you walk, the soft murmur of water accompanies you again, a constant presence, weaving through the air like a whispered secret. The gardens are a place of refuge, of quiet power, where rulers and commoners alike sought calm in a chaotic world. You pause for a moment by a carved relief of a winged lion, a symbol of strength and protection. Its eyes seem to watch over you, steady and patient. Maybe that's why the gardens have endured so long in stories and dreams, because they remind us of balance, beauty, and a gentle kind of power. Now, as your eyelids grow heavier, and the garden's embrace feels like the softest blanket, you realize you don't have to rush away. The past can wait a little longer. Tonight you're here, floating in this timeless, gentle place. So breathe in slowly, feeling the ancient calm wash over you. Let the gardens cradle you in their quiet magic. You are safe, you are serene, and the soft hum of history sings you into sleep. And with that, you slip away, the hanging gardens fading into a peaceful shadow, your mind quiet and ready for rest. You're almost there now, drifting deeper and deeper, the world around you becoming a soft blur. The stories, the scents, the gentle sounds, they all blend together, wrapping around you like a lullaby, whispered by time itself. Let your thoughts slow, your breath even out, and your heart find its steady rhythm. You're safe in this place, where the past and present meet in a quiet, gentle dance. Sleep well, dear listener, and know that the magic of the Hanging Gardens will be here whenever you return. Good night.